I had been having a beautiful dream. I no longer remembered what it had been about, but I knew exactly how the voice sounded that woke me. Calming, pleasant. I opened my eyes and looked directly into two green eyes, watching me gently. They belonged to Mehiel, and I simply could not stop looking into them until he smiled and reminded me that it was morning. I slowly sat up and looked around. I had fallen asleep in the reception area. It must have been strange to find someone asleep in a place like that inside his agency. What an impression I must have made. After a moment of silence, he suggested that we have breakfast first and invited me to his favorite bakery. Yes, I would like that. Then I added, only if it is not any trouble. He let me know that it was not a problem. So, just as I was, we left the agency and set off together. As we walked toward the bakery, I could not help looking at him again and again. He looked very good in what he was wearing. So good, in fact, that I found myself saying it aloud. I like what you are wearing, and I am sorry that I fell asleep in the reception area.
I thanked him for the compliment with a smile, but did not comment on it further. I hope you were at least able to sleep well on the sofa. What were you doing in the reception area in the first place? I asked as we continued walking toward the park, which I always crossed on my way to the bakery. There was no need for us to rush. The shooting would not begin for another few hours, so after breakfast, he would still have more than enough time to get ready. Naturally, I assumed Noel would not appear wearing sweatpants. Although somehow, I could imagine that he might actually be able to pull it off. The thought brought a small grin to my face. A little later, I stopped for a moment to show him where I usually sat. After buying something from the bakery, there was a bench with a direct view of a small artificial lake. It was always well maintained and carried a pleasant sense of calm. Perfect for switching off and relaxing for a while. This is where we will have breakfast on the way back, I said, my gaze directed toward the water. If that is all right with you, of course, I added, turning back to face him. And then, almost on instinct, without thinking about it, I placed an arm around his shoulder.
I thought it was kind of him to ask how I had slept. Or perhaps he only wanted to know whether the sofas in his reception area were comfortable. But honestly, I did not really believe that was how he thought. So I answered him honestly and explained why I had been there in the first place. I woke up and decided to stretch my legs for a while. The reception area felt very peaceful at that time, and I must have fallen asleep while I was resting. I slept very well, better than in the room. I liked the route he took every day, the way he described it to me, and I had no problem going with him. I told him that when he asked. When Mehiel placed his arm around me, it surprised me, but strangely, I did not pull away. It was even pleasant. On the way back from the bakery, he paid again. I really needed to invite him sometime soon. That thought crossed my mind again. We sat down on the bench he had shown me earlier and ate our breakfast in peace. It was so calm there, so pleasant. I liked it very much, and because of that, I felt completely comfortable. I was sure it showed, even though I had not meant it to. Sitting there beside him, enjoying the atmosphere and sharing breakfast, made me speak more openly than usual. Thank you for breakfast, and for allowing me to share this place with you. But next time, I want to invite you. As I said it, my gaze moved toward the water. Calm, still, relaxed, just like the water itself.
I am glad to share this place with you. I am usually here on my own, so having some company is a pleasant change. Then I paused for a moment, and I have to admit that I somehow enjoy your company. Even though you seem a little unusual, and we barely know each other, I added with a small smile. I had not meant it in a negative way. I only hoped Noel had understood it the way I intended. It would not have been the first time that something I said was understood differently from how I had meant it. Perhaps I was simply thinking too much about it. We continued to enjoy breakfast together at my favorite place in the park until it was finally time to return to the agency. I think we should make our way back to the agency. I assume you still want to change? Once we returned to the agency, our paths separated once again. This time, however, it would only be for about 2 hours. The shooting was drawing closer. When I reached my room, I sat down by the window and let my thoughts wander for a little while, as I always did, with my eyes closed.